Assalamu alaikum class. Today we are going to have the second lecture of research methodology. In our last lecture, we have discussed that how a researcher selects a title. The researcher selects a title on the basis of a criteria in which the researcher wants his title to be relevant. He wants that his title should be feasible. He wants that his title should be innovative, cost effective, and should follow all the ethical guidelines, as well as it is socially acceptable by the general population or the research participants. So I hope that all of you have selected your research titles with your supervisors, and now we are going to step further with the next step of the research methodology, which constitutes literature search. So we will be discussing literature search, which is the second step, basic step in conduction of research activity. So moving forward, the learning outcomes of today's lecture are that why do you want to conduct literature search? What is the definition of gray literature search and empirical literature search? What are different search engines on which you can do literature search? And what are different steps of conduction of literature search? So the question here arises that why the second step is the literature search once we have finalized our title. It is important because we want to know that what is already known about our title. The literature search gives us so many answers. It tells us that what is the main question and what are the main problems which we want to identify, from where this topic has originated, what are the political or economic or social consequences, what are the key sources from which we can do literature search, what are different theories and concepts and ideas behind this topic on which we want to work. We want to know that what are the major issues of debate on this topic, what are the key theories and concepts, what are different risk factors involved, what are different management techniques which are involved, what are different preventive measures which are involved, what is already known on this topic. So all these questions are answered by thorough literature search, which a researcher conducts before starting the research activity. So why literature search is important? Because as researcher, we want to know that what is the latest development in this particular field has been done, what is not done, and what needs to be done. Then we want to know by the literature search that what are important facts and ideas which are known to this particular disease or this particular phenomena, and we need not to further explore it. We want to know while conducting literature search that what is the previous work done on it. We want to make comparisons. If this work was done on special group 1 or is this work done on special group 2, what was the difference between the two? Let's assume that we want to do comparisons between the efficacy of two drugs. We want to know that what is the efficacy of two procedures. We want to know that how two vaccines are different. We want to know that which risk factor is more important than the other risk factor. The all answers to these questions come with the thorough literature search. So once you have finalized your title, the next step will be that you will be conducting literature search. And while conducting literature search, you will be going through the literature search by knowing that what is answered in this particular scholarly article which enchants your title. Or in other words, I will say that you will identify those particular important facts which are present in the scholarly article, and now you want to cite them in your research that this is already known. So there are different methods of conducting literature search. We have print source, we have electronic source, and we have gray literature. Print source, you all know, we have medical books, we have medical journals, we have um, different newspapers in which the news related to health are published. These are all print sources, but the most authentic source, I will say, that which a researcher wants to cite is the most recent information, and this recent information comes from the journals. The scientific medical journals will make the basic footage of your literature search. Then we have electronic sources. In electronic sources, you all know that we have different databases. We have Google Scholar, we have Park Medinet, we have PubMed, we have Cochrane, we have electronic libraries, we have access to internet, and we can find out any scholarly article which is published and is easily available on the internet sources. Then we come towards the grey literature. The grey literature is the literature which is produced by the governmental agencies or non-governmental agencies. For example, I will give you an example of COVID-19. We all know that the WHO updates its website daily and it tells that how many are infected, how many are dying, how many is the secondary attack rate, what is the secondary attack rate, how many of them are surviving, how many of them are active cases. But these are basically represented by a non-governmental organization or the government of Pakistan. Let's suppose it tells us about the statistics that these this is the total number of active cases of corona, and this is the province-wise distribution, and this is the city-wise distribution. How many males and females are affected? How many of them are dying? How many of them are active cases? But this all comes in grey literature. The original literature, which is basically cited by the researchers, is the original article which is basically published in journals or which is available in the form of electronic copy of journals. But the grey literature can also be cited, but their value is less. For example, if as a researcher you want to cite almost 30 to 40 articles in your one original paper, then you can take only 1 to 2 references from the grey literature. But the rest of the references should be taken from the medical journals, which can be accessed through pen source or which can be accessed through the electronic source. Let me make things very clear here that as a researcher, you will always cite the work of other researchers. You will not prefer to cite the work of governmental agencies or non-governmental agencies. There are many search sources. We have journal articles access in Medline, in Embase, in Index Medicus. We have current journal articles in our libraries. There are many research projects which are being conducted and their theses are being shared on the internet. We have conferences papers and congress papers, but let me tell you again that this comes in grey literature. And then there are many research organizations which publish the research papers, and the examples can be that WHO sponsors research, UNICEF sponsors research, many governmental agencies sponsor original research. You can always use their references while doing literature search. Fine. So let's move forward. What are the basic steps in conduction of literature search? The first step is the identification of the keywords. For example, if you have selected a title that how COVID-19 has affected nurses for their mental health, the first keyword will be COVID-19. The second keyword will be nurses, and the third keyword will be mental health. Let's suppose you have assumed that you want to work on the comorbidity of diabetes mellitus along with COVID-19, and you want to see that how it has produced effect on the mortality rate, then your keywords will be COVID-19, diabetes, and mortality. So you have to identify your keywords, because these keywords will help you in doing the literature search through search engines. Then you put these keywords in the database. If we are talking about the electronic literature search, then you will put these keywords into the database, and then you will identify different journals to whom you want to cite, and you also want to see that what are the national, international, and local agencies are working on that as evidence. And then you will collect the evidence or collect the original research papers, and you will go through them and you will analyze them. This is the total step through which you can conduct the literature search. One of the major example through which you can do literature search is the PubMed, which is National Library of Medicine. When you will go on the Google engine or any search engine, you will write the PubMed Central or PubMed, this window will open. And what you can do is that you can enter here your keywords, and you will click the button of go, and it will give you the number of articles. Let me show you the example. For example, if I have entered a word of diabetes in this National Library of Medicine in the PubMed, you can see that I have accessed 1,62,306 articles which are related to diabetes. But if I am working on the incidence of hypertension in diabetic patients with nephropathic complications, so my first keyword will be diabetes, and you can see when I have entered diabetes, I have accessed articles which are 1,62,306. But now I want to confine my research to the second important keyword. And as you can see, the second important keyword is the hypertension, which is present in association with the diabetes. So my next keyword will be diabetes and hypertension. And as well, as soon as I will enter diabetes and the second word as hypertension, you can see that the number of research articles which have originated has reduced to 16,057. And as soon as I will enter the third keyword, the number of articles will further be reduced. So this is the important technique through which you can use literature search. And now you can download all the articles which are present in the window, and you can find the most relevant one which goes in connection to your title, and you can put it in a Dropbox, or you can put it in the soft copies, and then you can skim it and you can find out the important findings into it. Another important example which I want to give is that I want to show you how the other search engines work. For example, let's go to the Google, and I want to show you that Google Scholar is another important database through which you can find out your original articles. For example, this is Google Scholar, and I want to work on COVID-19, how it has affected nurses and how it has affected their mental health. So my first keyword will be COVID-19, and then the second keyword will be nurses, and third keyword will be mental health. Fine. So by putting these three keywords, you can see that I have accessed 69,400 papers which have already worked on the mental health status of nurses during COVID-19. Fine. So how will you go further into its detail? Going towards on the left corner side, you can see that we can figure out that we want to find out the articles since 2021, 2020, and you can custom range. As we all know that all the articles on COVID-19 have been emerged from the 2020 to 2021. So I will say that we can range it. Let's suppose I want to find out the work which has been done on nurses' mental health 210 to 220. 2020. Fine. And now I want to see that what are different articles. You can see that there are 19,300 articles which show that how the mental health is affected of nurses. You can get COVID-19 uh, effect on the mental health, and then other mental health consequences other than the COVID-19 as well. So you can customize the range of the articles through which you want to work. And I must tell you that in a good scholarly work, you need to focus within last 10 years when you want to work with the original research articles. And there is another key area. You can identify these scholarly articles by relevance, as it is shown by the relevance, which is done by the key with the use of the keywords, or you can sort them by date. Look at this. This is the most latest article, which is published in 2021. And then subsequently, as you go in the chronological order, it decreases. So it tells us that how you want to access. Then it gives you another important topic, that whether you want to access the abstracts only, or you want to access everything related to article. So you have to access everything. We are not dealing with abstracts only. We have to deal with everything. It means the whole original article should be with you when you are doing literature search. Then there is another important criteria which is known as include citations, and these citations means that whenever you will go into this arrow, you will see that there are different types of citations which are available. And we will be dealing with Vancouver style of referencing, and we will be discussing it later on in our subsequent lecture, when I will be telling you how you will write your introduction. For the time being, you must know that Google Scholar is an important component, or it's an important data source through which you can do literature search. Another example of conducting literature search is the research gates. You can see that this is a research gates, and this has the finding toolbar as well. For example, I want to work on COVID-19 and nurses and mental health. So by putting these keywords and finding out, it means that we do not have any access to it. Let me find out again in this COVID-19, nurses, mental health, and let's have a look again. So yes, we have a number of researchers which have been published on nurses, mental health, and COVID-19 pandemic. And you can see that you can access these articles very easily, and you can request for full text. You can read their abstracts, you can read their detail, and it has a large number of articles as well. Let me show you another source which is known as Park Medinet. In Park Medinet, we have different sources which are related to Pakistan. So let's find out that how the Park Medinet has any papers which have been published for nurses in Pakistan. So COVID-19 nurses and mental health. This is the basic data source of Pakistan. So yes, the work has been done in Pakistan as well, and two papers have already been published on the mental health burden, mostly on the healthcare workers in Lahore, and again this is again on the mental well-being of the healthcare workers and tertiary healthcare workers. So you know that by searching different sources, we can find out that what work has been done in Pakistan, what work has been done internationally, and how we can access them. Fine. So you can use multiple types of sources for the literature search. The most important step of conduction of literature search is that you define search topic, then you define which source you have to identify. You identify your key terms, and then you compile the search strategy and execute research. Whatever articles come into your way, you pull them together and then you organize your results. Moving further, what do we do? We generally, when we do our research, it is basically very general, and we move from general to specific literature search. So whenever you want to do literature search, the first literature search will be done on the backgrounds, that how COVID-19 has affected nurses, what are the important ill health effects it has produced, how the physical, mental, and social well-being is affected. Then you further narrow it, that what is the worldwide distribution of the nurses which are affected, what is the regional wise distribution. You give statistics, you tell that how the nurses are affected, and then you come towards the local scenario. So you start with the international scenario, you go with the regional scenario, then you do comparisons with the neighboring countries, and then you narrow your research topic to your own country, and then you give the identified reason to your research paper, that why do you want to conduct this study. Fine. So in a literature search, you start with a general categorization, and then you narrow down your literature search, which is very, very relevant to your topic. So this is the example which I have already given you, how to use the Google Scholar. Basically, what do you do? That you see that uh, ho- let's suppose that you have identified almost 93 papers, and some of them were duplicated, so you will remove them, and then you see that there are 81 almost articles which are in your hand. Then you see that how many of them are have the full text articles. So that's why I have said you that you will not use the articles with abstracts only. You will use the full text articles for your literature search, and then you will see that how many out of these are very relevant to your original research, and to whom you will analyze. So this makes the crux of the literature search and how you go about the literature search. There are many different websites. You can use Scopus, you can use Embase, you can use Park Medinet, you can use Elsewhere Science Directory, you can use Google Scholar, any of the scientific journal database which gives you access to the original articles can be used for the original research papers which are relevant to your research study. So now your task is that each student will submit 4 relevant articles with complete bibliographic information to the research supervisor, and you will be granted marks for them. Um, Let me tell you, duplication of work submitted to the supervisor will not be acceptable. Those who will submit their research articles for the literature search early will be accepted early, and those who will duplicate the research will have to go back and do literature search again. So every student will submit 4 relevant articles to your title, which has been approved by your supervisor, will be submitted to WhatsApp group to your research batches. Fine, and your faculty members will give me the feedback for that. So thank you so much for the literature search. Hopefully you have understood how you have to use the electronic database system for the literature search, and we will be getting good response from you. Let me tell you again, you have to download the whole article. Abstract will not be acceptable. You have to justify your literature search according to the keywords which are present in your research title. Your research work should be confined to only 10 years, and it should not be later than 10 years. So any article which has publication date of more than 2010 will not be acceptable. So I wish you all the good luck for your literature search. See you next week, inshallah. Thank you.